developing communities of learning teacher by using clinical simulators. We are going to talk about this. My name is Gilad Cohen Ynon. I was head of research and organizational development at the Israeli Air Force, organizational consultant, and a lecturer at the Department of Organizational Development and Consulting at the Israel Valley Academic College and at the Haifa University. Moshe Sharabi, my colleague, is an associate professor at the Sociology and Anthropology Department and head of the MA Studies in Organizational Development and Consulting at the Israel Valley Academic College. First, we are going to talk about clinical learning. Clinical learning is an approach used by medical schools. Recently, it had also been used for training teachers. The learning process usually takes place within a learning community of teachers, and they learn about their experience and study their own professional practice. What are effective ways of transferring knowledge? What are my personal biases that limits me as a teacher? What do I believe as a teacher and how it affects me? This is clinical learning. Clinical simulator, the other thing I want to talk about, is a simulation process that allows the teacher to study his own practice as near to the field as possible. We want to simulate the field as best as we can. So how do you simulate teaching? Because ordinary simulators are very good at simulating interpersonal skills. Now let's simulate having a hard conversation with a student, or let's simulate giving feedback to another student or teacher or whatever, or parent. You can't bring the students to the simulator and teach them. It's a problem. So the core skills of teaching can't be simulated easily. What do we do with it? The only effective way to simulate teaching we found was to capture real-life teaching processes. This means not to simulate or to be at class itself with the students as near as possible to the field and then use clinical learning. The study field took place at elementary schools. There were two groups of 35 teachers. Each group received 8 sessions of workshops. First, we used special methods from the psychodrama realm to start to understand what are the problems. What do we want to work on as a group of teachers? We used poetry slam to do that. And then we worked upon two different problems. First, the first group wanted to work on differential teaching as the most important need, using how do we give answers to different needs of teaching, how do we adjust teaching methods, how do we adjust teaching materials to the learning preferences and the learning abilities of students. How do we anticipate? How do we respond to the students' individual needs? And how do we adopt different learning styles to deal with different children? That was the first group. And the second group, I wanted to see how they could be more effective while teaching during Corona times. How do we teach as effectively as we teach before? First, we built best practice markers. Where does my practice as a teacher stand in relation to the markers? What do I need? How can I be better using those markers? And then the clinical learning took place. First lesson was administered by the group, by the teachers, and they were videoed. Some of them were videoed at the class, and some of them were videoed or recorded during the Zoom sessions. And then the clinical analysis of teaching took place. What did we do? First, we used the ethical code, like no judgment, like I'm here to look at the other teacher with good eyes and trying to help him, or be very discreet about things that are going on at the group. And then we started working. The observed teacher briefly described the lesson, what he was trying to achieve. He can ask participants to look at a particular aspect of the point, etc. We are going over the ethical code together, and then we observe the videos. Each participant receives an observation indicator and chooses a lens to focus on. Participants watch the movie. They write down questions, thoughts, points, comments, teaching options, and then self-investigation takes place. The observed teacher interrogates himself in light of the following aspects, like how did I achieve lesson goals? What was the atmosphere at class? What was the effectiveness of the material transferred? The discourse that took place during the lessons with the students, how was it? The next stage, feedback. The participants described what each saw in their unique lens, and the observed teacher listens. They return to the films, they are watching selected section at the request of the participants and the request of the observing teacher. The last stage is reflection. What the observed teacher has learned, what the other participant learned about their own practice while watching the teacher teach. Well, what did the participants said? How did they feel? Most of them felt more connected to other teachers during the process. Their feeling of community was greater. Most of them felt that was the best way of work on their own practice. I wrote some of the things they wrote down, like in the teaching race, we don't stop a lot to really talk to one another. We don't stop to give instructive and honest feedback. The simulator is so important. It enables us to work with groups of teachers and teach them that teach at the same ages, and to talk about personal issues, to find out that we are not alone, and to come out with new solutions together. Another teacher says, as I write, I realized that this was the first course I participated in that puts the teacher at the center, that allows room for his feelings, his thoughts, his pain. In all my years as a teacher, I did not put myself at the center. A third teacher wrote down, I received tools that help me integrate the students who have difficulties. Integrating the students with the learning disability gives them a success experience, increases their confidence, and keeps them concentrated throughout the lessons. Well, that was my lectures. Thank you very much.